Hello, everyone, and welcome to Night 2 of the NASPA Tournament of Champions presented by Scrabble GO. I am Morris Greenberg, an expert player in North America, and I am joined by expert player Matt Canick. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, Morris. Looking forward to some really high-level Scrabble from two great players tonight.
So we can see the challenge is now just getting uploaded, and Jason has his opening rack of AAHLNUY.
Well, Jason's a little bit unlucky on this opening turn. The U and the Y are both really nasty tiles, and he's pulled two at the same time. I would certainly play unlay here, UNLAY. Jason is electing to play those same tiles in a different order, it looks like. He's putting down Ulan. It's the same score. Unlay is probably slightly better defensively, but we're playing a 20-minute game here, too. Typically, tournament players get 25 minutes in a game, so maybe Jason's just trying to play pretty quickly and preserve a little time on that move.
Yeah, and man, can you explain to the viewer why Unlay might be a bit more defensive than Yulan?
So the reason you would prefer to play unlay in this situation is unlay would slot the N next to a double letter as opposed to the A that Yulan slotted there. And Lisa could be able to parallel play back, just stack on top of or underneath Yulan and put a high scoring tile like an H or a W or even a Z for a lot of points. And you know that you just don't want to give your opponent 30 or 40 free easy points, or if it's a Z, that even be 50. So for that reason, Yulan is slightly inferior. It doesn't particularly matter here. Lisa's drawn an opening rack of all 1-point tiles, so she's not going to parallel play, but instead she's going to bingo on two double word squares at the same time. In competitive Scrabble, that's called a double-double. It's ×2, and then ×2 again, and then plus 50 points at the end. So she jumps out to a big lead very early on in this game.
Yeah, so we'll see how Jason responds back. One thing we should point out, since Josh was so big on extensions yesterday, is that unlay could have given unlaying as an option, hitting the triple. So maybe that was Jason's reason for choosing Yulan over unlay. Meanwhile, Jason has picked up the Z. Matt, I see on the Quackle, Hafiz is a big option there. Would you go with Hafiz or a different play here?
So this is really funny. I talked about how the Z was going to be very important after Yulan, and of course you can see on the Quackle results at the bottom, Zori or Zarf or even just Zoa could come down and score quite a few points. But 69 points is 69 points, and you've got to take that option. It looks like Jason does see it, and he's going to throw that down. There is some concern about putting a Z in a triple line or even potentially a triple line. But man, that's 69 points. There's no way you pass that up unless you're winning by 200, and the only way you lose is a triple through a Z. So good choice by Jason, and suddenly he's back in the lead just by getting bingoed on the first turn.
Yeah, sometimes if you score enough without bingos, but just get 50, 60 points, it gets pretty close to a bingo, and that does the trick. It's good to not be sort of too narrowly focused on trying to get all your letters down. Jason has shown us that there are other ways to respond back. Meanwhile, Lisa picked up one of those key blank tiles. I'm actually not seeing any bingos right away, but it's somewhat tough to see. Matt, what's jumping out to you right now?
Well, this is a really challenging rack as well. If there is a bingo in here, it's probably a relatively obscure word, and Scrabble players prefer to study bingos based on their probability or how likely you are to draw them out of the bag. So Snoutier, for instance, has a bunch of very common 1-point tiles. That's one of the first bingos that competitive Scrabble players will learn. Lisa is struggling with a D and a G and an M and a U all at the same time. So to find a bingo in this rack, it would show that you do have to study quite a bit. Now, we have the benefit of seeing Quackle. Quackle says that there are no available bingos. I can bet Lisa will spend just a little bit of time trying to find one here, but she will be fruitless in those efforts.
So Lisa just played Mug. It was Quackle's second choice over Gotti. And Jason has picked up the J after he's picked up the Z. And so he definitely has some potential J plays. He could also play through the Z here. Matt, what objective would you try to do here if you're Jason?
So Jason's got simultaneously scoring power and bingo power. And Scrabble players are just as concerned with scoring points this turn as they are about scoring points next turn. The concept of leave, or the letters you remain on your rack, is incredibly important in Scrabble. And Jason is opting just to play off his Joe with his worst vowel, the O, and he's going to hold on to ADIRS, which together work very well to try and play a bingo next turn. So I think that's a really solid choice. He nicely combines both scoring now and trying to get a bingo for the next turn. Speaking of bingos on the next turn, it looks like Lisa has drawn into several different options here. So we're curious to see which one she's going to put down. But she has many, many different options.
Yeah, so it looks like she's putting on Datura.
I don't think that is a word.
Yeah, I knew Datura. I wasn't sure if Datura. She could Laterad would be a possibility maybe if she makes the U and E, that could be coming down. But it looks like she realizes her mistake. Again, one thing we should mention is in Scrabble Go does not allow you to play any phony words. Like you saw for Datura there, it appeared red. Scrabble Go wouldn't actually even let Lisa submit that. So in real tournaments, in live tournaments, you don't get the benefit of having a lookup before you press play. Whatever word you submit, if your opponent thinks it's invalid, you could actually lose your turn if you're wrong. So in this format, there's no downside to trying things if you're unsure if something's good or think there's an outside shot, something's good. And we definitely saw Eric take advantage of that yesterday. We'll see how the players adapt to that today.
So Diastral and Lodestar were the two bingos I was thinking through the S. She also had Diastral available through the I in Hafiz, and Jason blocked that one. So that made this position more challenging. But you see in the Quackle results, Heartland available as a 9-letter bingo from the HE. That's just a fantastic play. It's also incredibly difficult to see. So Lisa just hovered her mouse right there. Maybe she's looking for 9s at this point. I'd be shocked if that comes down. I'd be very impressed if that comes down. Very tough find for her. But I expect at least one of these bingos to eventually come down.
Yeah, I would have. Laterad was the only one I was seeing right away. And given that was the same spot as Datura, I'm guessing that's going to be the most likely one she sees, although maybe she's just not seeing the word right now. But yeah, if she plays Heartland, that will be an awesome find. Like, I know when I play in tournaments and I find a 9-letter word like Heartland, I know, okay, this is going to be a good tournament because I'm seeing things. And it often works out that way, whether it's my own sort of kind of survivorship bias and just overconfidence at that point and ability to relax, or if it's actually I'm playing better than normally. I'm not sure, but it often is conducive to doing well in the tournament.
Another thing I want to talk about right now is pressure. I was actually live streamed playing Scrabble for the first time just last year at the Scrabble Nationals, and it really messes with your head knowing a lot of people are watching what you're doing and watching you live. But to do what they're doing now on Scrabble Go, where people can even see your screens and where you're moving your tiles around and what words you're checking, it puts a whole extra psychology to it. It's very challenging. So it looks like Lisa has found Lodestar. She is going to get a bingo down. I wonder if she'll use any more of her time trying to find something better. She did not. So she went ahead and played Lodestar. It's the lowest scoring option available and probably the scariest for comeback plays. But it is at least a bingo. You know, she's able to cash in 58, 59 points for that.
Yeah, and so she takes a small lead now, but Jason is definitely continuing to groom his rack. We saw after Joe, he kept the very bingo-prone Raids, R-A-I-D-S. It looks like he's going for Dits this turn upon not seeing any bingos. He was close. If the O in Lodestar was a bit lower, he would have auditors, but I don't think there are any bingos available here, at least not that I'm seeing. So Dits looks like a really strong play to me.
Yeah, I think there's very little else to even consider on this play. It's 42 points, and you still hold relatively well. You prefer to hold on to your S if at all possible. And so he wants to do that. It looks like he might be checking some other words, maybe they're words in Collins. I don't know about DURZI, if that's a Collins word or what Jason was checking, but DITS is what it comes down with. That's got to be the standard, pretty straightforward play for him to make. And once again, he's back in the lead. So Lisa has out-bingoed Jason 2-0, and Jason is winning this game just by crushing that Z not once but twice and cashing in his J.
Yeah, and Matt, you're getting a lot of love in the chat. Someone said they think you're winning right now. So I think based on the score, at least Jason's winning. But Matt, you could make a comeback. We'll see at some point.
I will keep trying.
Also, if you're looking along the chat and you see sort of the pound sign, that's players indicating that a word is in the international dictionary. So Josh, the other commentator yesterday, said Dersey, pound sign or hashtag for the young folks out there. That just means it's a word in the international dictionary, not the North American dictionary we're playing with right now. So Lisa looks like she is concentrated on using that key hotspot. A hotspot is when a letter or kind of one of these colored squares can be used in multiple ways on a turn. So she saw the F, that hotspot. If she could extend it all the way down to the triple, that F would be worth ×6 because it was a double word score on a triple, or double letter score on a triple word. And she decided to play fleet there. It looks like a pretty good play to me.
Yeah, that was a tough situation. Obviously, closing a triple is a thing that players like to do for various reasons. But at the same time, she got rid of a T and ended up having to hold together V and W. And that's not something players generally like to do. VW has some pretty awful synergy together. But also leaving a triple open is a pretty terrifying thing to do. So Lisa decides to play a little bit of defense at the expense of her rack next turn. And I don't know what she's drawn, but we'll see how that works out for her.
Yeah,
I'm getting a little bit frustrated here watching Jason's draws because Jason has been kind of bingo prone for the majority of this game. But drawing the letter E is huge to help your odds of bingoing, and Jason has not drawn one yet. So he ends up with these kind of annoying racks to deal with, where there are a lot of 1 and 2 point tiles that you can't score a lot with right now, but you don't have a bingo that you're able to do anything with either. So I feel a little bit bad for Jason, but luckily he's been bailed out by just 2 huge tiles, the J and the Z, 2 of the highest scoring tiles in Scrabble, and he's been able to work his way out. But now he's in some trouble.
Yeah, and so you saw him a minute ago putting down the G at 14B. If you notice on the sides of our board, we have axes labeled in case we need to refer to plays on the fly. It looks like he's going to miss Glia, which is Quackle's top lane, and opts for guard instead. Glia is probably a bit better there just because it scores a bit more, but guard's perfectly reasonable, gets rid of the G and the U, which are probably the 2 clunkiest tiles within that set of 7. And he continues to keep it within range. It's a 5-point game right now.
So into Lisa's PVW lead, she picked up some nice tiles, CERS, but this just goes to show you that if you keep bad tiles, you're probably going to end up with a bad rack, even if you draw some nice stuff. So Lisa's got some decisions to make here. How do I get rid of these tiles? How many can I get rid of? And how much can I score while I do it? I'm not seeing a ton of fantastic options for her offhand. Morris, do you see anything?
Not really. And so guard was a pretty interesting play as a turning point just because it really shut down the board a lot. Like, it's hard to open on that side, that top left side of the board. And Lisa's play that she's putting down now of pervs closes the board down even more on the top part of the board. We talked about yesterday, one quick way to evaluate whether bingos are possible on the board is how many spots are available to place 7 contiguous letters or 7 letters through one other letter. And you can see that pervs after guard kind of splits that third row up into these groups of 2 empty spaces, then 6 empty spaces, then 5 empty spaces. So it kind of makes it really tough to bingo over there. It means, and the other thing you might be noticing geometrically is that these players are mostly using the top diagonal of the board this time. Last night we saw a game where everyone was using the bottom part of the board. So it's unlikely, at least in the near term, for them to be able to bingo. They're going to need to do more opening kind of plays like Jason is doing right now.
Wow, that's a great play. So Jason maybe didn't see or maybe chose not to play in the Glia spot last turn, but he destroyed that spot this turn. He was able to cash in that K on a triple letter and then got a double word for everything and got to cash in some points for the J, making Jolt as an overlap. Is that 57 points for Slick? That's a lot. So Jason, again, doesn't need to bingo. He's just scoring.
Yeah, and so Lisa has an insanely cool underlap play that I would not find at all. Through the T in Snoutier, she could make a whole bunch of 2 and 3 letter words to play botanic, making YOLI, man, and uni, short for university, I believe. That would be an insane play. And botanic does take an A back hook. Just as a reminder, a hook, all that means is 1 letter either at the front of the word, that's a front hook, or at the end of the word, that's a back hook. So botanica is a word. So if she finds that, that would be an incredible play, but it looks like she might be opting for on instead.
Botanic would be absolutely disgusting. I think there are maybe 2 or 3 players in the world who would find that live over a board, maybe 4 or 5 if they're having a good day. But Lisa is doing what I think a lot of people's first instinct would be to do, and that's to knock out the only available triple word score and bingo line at the same time. You can see she's looking at playing on right here. That holds BCIO, which is still not particularly balanced. I'd be more inclined probably to play just TOW from the T in Snoutier, making LO and AW, and holding slightly better tiles. But I can totally understand why somebody would want to knock out that volatile spot.
Yeah, we're really in a position here where there aren't that many spaces on the board open, and Lisa's logic could be take the spot that is the most volatile right now. I'm already down. On basically ties the game, and I don't have terrible tiles. B, C, I, O aren't great, but they're not bad either. It's not like W, V, U, Q or something. So it kind of puts it at an even game. And that might just be what Lisa wants. Whereas if she left that open and Jason bingoed or something, it's a lot harder to claw back. So it's kind of like a low variance move in a lot of ways, I think.
One very important thing for this game is plays underneath Ulon, kind of extending out to the right and reopening the board. UN takes a back S and a back I. You can make uns or uni. And I expect to see uni come down. But if uni comes down with a little 2 or 3 letter word, that's going to cause this board to stay very closed. And if uni comes down with a longer word, then that's going to cause this board to get open again. And it looks like both of these players are trying to play things closed and tight right now. But we'll see what kind of word ends up coming down. It looks like Lisa has drawn Chow, making MAC and uni. And that's a good way to clear up a bad rack she has. So that might cause this game to open back up. But we'll see what Jason does. He's got very, very bingo-prone tiles right now. I don't think he has a playable bingo, but just dropping an A or the A and the O, holding AENRS or AENRSO, those are plays that make a ton of sense, and he's probably going to want to open up the board if he's this close to a bingo. Morris, what do you think here?
Yeah, I think that analysis is exactly what I was thinking. I would probably look to play on the upper part of the board, given that on and ka are the 2 available spots. Ka, which was created from the K in Slick, and the A in on, can take a front O or S. So He might want to maybe play a short word through the P in pervs like apo or opa. That could possibly open up that top part of the board, and it's virtually impossible, actually definitely impossible for Lisa this turn to address both that spot and the bottom part of the board, which she opened up a bit last turn. So I might look to do something like that. If you notice what Quackle's suggesting, Quackle, so we said before that Quackle's this Scrabble AI, and the plays we have ordered right now, it's from a predetermined algorithm based on their score and how valuable their leave is, or basically how good the 5 remaining tiles or 6 remaining tiles or however many tiles you keep would be on average. The one issue with that, though, is in any individual game, the board can be shaped weirdly. If you look at this game, players have not been playing very openly. They've kind of taken up this top diagonal part of the board. So we might want to go a different direction sometimes in order to accomplish whatever objective we want. If I'm Jason and I know I want a bingo, yes, certain tile combinations might score a bit better or have a better leave associated with it, but I also need to have the board be friendly enough for me to potentially bingo and fulfill my objective. So it looks like he's actually opting for a more scoring route of a Noah here. It's not the worst idea given that it's a tight game and there aren't that many scoring spots, and he might just be hoping for Lisa to open something up naturally for him. Matt, what were your thoughts on a Noah?
Well, the Quackle showed the remaining unseen letters, and the bag is getting very interesting. Typically, there's about 60% consonants and 40% vowels in the bag at any given time. And on Jason's turn, there were actually more remaining vowels than consonants unseen to him. And this is something top players think about all the time. It's perfectly legal and valid to track off tiles as they're played, so you know what's unseen. Scrabble GO conveniently even does this for them. So you're seeing players pop open that tab and seeing what letters are remaining and thinking about it. It's generally not the best idea to go fishing for a bingo and playing small tiles when there are more vowels to draw, especially with the leave like AENORS or reason, like Jason might have held. So I think he opted to play off 3 of his vowels and hold 2 consonants and 1 vowel, probably because of that. That would be my gut instinct.
Yeah, I would think similarly. And so I'm looking at the chat. Ben Schombrun, or Benji, as the Scrabble community loves to call him, points out heritages through the HE as a possibility. We saw Lisa not see Heartland earlier when she opted for Lodestar. That was a really hard find. Jason couldn't. I would think that heritages is a bit easier to see just because it's an 8-letter word with an S, so it's like he studied the 8 and knows it takes an S back hook. One other question we saw in the chat was how long would you have taken on a play on the turn before for Jason, on the Anoa turn, where you have to think about scoring versus keeping good lead versus board dynamics. It really depends on your skill set, I think. If you really know those sorts of positions, it might be like that for you. For me, those are actually the kinds of positions I sometimes need to spend more time on because I'm not always great at discerning the differences. And one thing to point out also is you can see the clocks. So Jason right now has 8 minutes and 30 seconds left. For 33 tiles unseen, he's pacing himself pretty well, but might need to speed it up a bit towards the end. So it depends on sort of how comfortable you are for a specific board position, situation, and how much time you have, I would say, for that. Matt, what sort of plays? So I guess Heritage jumps out. What other things might you consider for Jason here?
If you're not going to play heritages, you're going to do exactly what Jason is doing. You're going to play gripiest. It's a word without a back hook, so you don't have to worry about that happening and a triple word getting hit later on. And it still scores very well. It's a double word. It puts the G, his highest scoring letter, on a double letter score, and plays through a P, which is a high scoring letter as well. So gripiest is absolutely the second best bingo there. I think heritages is a better play, but gripiest is still very good. And you can see Lisa is not super thrilled about getting bingoed on right now. Her chances of winning this game are bleeding every second.
Yeah, and Jason also picked up the key X tile, which after Chow is a very key tile on this board. We talked about hotspots earlier. Triple letter scores are often a really good hotspot for the X because the X makes a 2-letter word with every single vowel. There's axe, X, XI, Ox, and XU. So luckily, Lisa right now looks like she's going to go there, so she's not going to be so far down after this turn. But Jason has a very key tile for this game for scoring, and that was probably a necessary tile for Lisa if she were to come back.
So Lisa's in a very interesting position here because it's about this point in a game when you're losing by 70, the bag is starting to empty. You have to decide, am I going to try and bingo to win this game, or do I think I can try and sneak this game out just by outscoring my opponent a lot? And with an unseen X, there are a lot of possibilities if you draw the X to score a lot of points. But if your opponent draws the X, it's probably game over if they cash it in for 40 when they're already up by 70. So it looks like Lisa did make a very aggressive play there, opening up several bingo lines at the same time and holding B, D, E, I, O. I did mention that there are a lot of unseen vowels, and Lisa picked up 2 of those, so she's not going to bingo, and she opened a huge spot for Jason to drop that X. Vex comes down for over 50 points. And just like that, it looks like Lisa's chances of winning this game have nearly dried up. Now, never, ever say never in Scrabble, especially not when there are 2 fantastic players playing a game like this. I bet Lisa's able to come up with 1 or 2 really interesting options down the road to give herself at least a fighting chance.
Yeah, one key tile to monitor here, since Lisa's down almost 100 points and any bingo she scores need to be a really high scoring one, is the T. The T can be placed after Vex to make Vexed. So I'm looking at this board right now. If a bingo is going to happen, that's probably going to be the highest scoring bingo possibility, making a hook after WE and making Vexed as well. Add that to a double word score, you can be looking at a 90-point bingo, which is exactly the kind of play she would need. So if I'm Lisa right now, I'm going to probably try to start thinking about what are high enough point bingos. Is it possibly things with Vexed? Is it possibly things that start above the N and on and put a really nice tile on that triple letter score? I'm going to be trying to find bingos like that at this point in the game and try to shape my objective for the next few turns based on that.
I think Josh Sokol in the chat was thinking exactly what I was thinking. Lisa wanted to make a play like Dierer here over the play like Borer, because Dierer, well, the D is a great letter to end words in as well as to start words with. It's okay for that. And so it's just very dynamic to put it up there. When she's desperate for a bingo at this point in the game, she can't make a play like Borer. She's going all in on bingoing from a B. It's almost no words that end in B of 7 or 8 letters. So Dierer, I think, is a very smart thing for her to do. Creates another big, high-scoring bingo line. And Jason probably doesn't feel too good. If there's an unseen T, he can't block Vexed and also deal with the D that Lisa just opened up at the same time.
Yeah, and so one other tile that I saw in the bag is the Q. I'm counting 3 U's on the board, so that is another possibility for getting a big bingo. A Q bingo hitting the triple word score with ending in D, a word like inquired or something. Actually, can we look at the remaining pool? So it looks like inquired, for instance, is a possibility. And also inquire off of the N and on is a possibility. So if she draws into something like that, it will be tough. You need the right letters. It's going to be virtually impossible for Jason to block all the spots, and that would probably be enough to win. It looks like Jason isn't even bothering trying to block either spot. He's just going to try to score and hope it's enough. But I think there is a possibility right now, if Lisa can somehow get rid of the some of these key letters in the next few turns, like the H, the B, and the B, and go for something like inquire. There might be other plays like that too. I'm not seeing any right away, but feel free to point them out in the chat. That would be her road to victory, and Jason can't do much about it.
I think what Jason just did is very smart. There are too many lines for him to adequately address all of them, and does have space on the board to continue opening even more lines. So there will be 2 or 3 available bingo lines open basically every turn for the rest of this game. Jason said, forget about it. If you bingo, you bingo. I'm going to score so much that it doesn't matter if you're able to bingo on the board. So I do think for Lisa, probably the best thing she can do is try and surprise Jason with a bingo that scores a lot more than he might expect. Try and I mean, reach for QU if you can, or HBB. They're pretty good scoring tiles as well. And just see if you can hit like 100-point bingo. Last night we saw Eric Tran do exactly. It wasn't quite enough to win a game, but there was one bingo line that looked like he was probably going to hit it, and he fished for an entirely different bingo line, grew into his bingo, and bingoed with Vocalize for 104 to shock his opponent and almost sneak out the game.
Yeah, it was a 2-second win. Cecilia won within 10 points. And if you go over, she would have lost the game because you lose 10 points for every minute you go over. So she had 2 seconds left in her clock. That's how close it was. So Lisa needs to be thinking now, what is the most likely way I can score a lot and draw into that key bingo? I guess I saw Inquired. Matt, do you see any other sort of QU bingos or just really high bingos, maybe with both Bs or something?
I'm not sure. You have to think about, from Lisa's perspective, what could Jason be holding right now? He did just play off a lot of tiles. It looks like she's just trying to score a little bit, but she's getting dangerously low on time at the same time. I agree that both the BOTHIE through the T in Gripiest would have been a pretty solid play there, because it sets up a line for her to bingo down on the right side of it on a triple word. Jason is going to have to do something to knock out that line, and then potentially Lisa has a path to victory bingoing to the D after Jason blocks the triple word that's a little bit easier to hit. It's tough to make a play like Bothie because a lot of the time Jason scores 35, 40, 45 points blocking that line. But it seemed like there were mostly 1-point tiles and a Q unseen. So maybe Lisa needs to take a shot and hope that Jason just has 1-point tiles and can't really do anything.
Yeah, so this
we're going to have to do some word here on Lisa.
I'm not sure if unbribed is a word. Matt, if unbribed is a word, this is an interesting position because Jason could see unbribed and inquire right now from her perspective. So the problem is there are 4 tiles in the bag. If unbribed is a word and Jason also sees inquire in the bag, which is in the bag from his perspective, so Lisa could have it.
So unbribed is not valid, but unribbed is, which is the same score in the same spot. So Jason does have a challenge to deal with here. I believe Inquire is unseen to him. I'm hoping we can get the Quackle results up there. Yeah, Inquire, I think, is unseen to Jason, as are potential bingos to the D. One thing Jason might be thinking about is, well, if she has Inquire at the bottom, she also has Inquired at the top. So do I even bother blocking it or not? Jason might also be thinking, I really need to get rid of some vowels. One thing I don't think we will see Jason do here at all is play off 4 or more tiles. There are 11 unseen to Jason. That means 7 are on Lisa's rack and 4 are in the bag. If Jason plays off 4 or more tiles, that means Lisa can make the last play of the game. If she happens to have a bingo, she would get all of the points off of Jason's rack and could actually win the game. You see Jason just picked up the Q, which is a 20-point swing. So Jason does not empty the bag. Lisa's going to throw down unribbed, but she's going to draw another tile, which will give Jason a turn to get rid of the Q that he's just pulled. He did wisely hold an I to make sure he could do that. And I think Jason's still going to be able to squeak this one out despite the bingo by Lisa at the end.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty close. What tile will Lisa draw? That might be key. If it's a high point letter or a letter that she can score a lot of points with, it might be just enough because he's only going to get 12 points for. Oh no, he can get 24 for cop off of this.
Right. QAT at the top, with the T and Gripiest is 24. Jason's going to be able to live anything. If Lisa drew an I, that would be a little bit scary because she could plunk QI, but Lisa picks up an E, so Jason's going to be able to unload that Q and sneak this one out by probably 20 or 30 or maybe 30 points at the end of it.
Yeah, this was a really good game again, though. It wasn't quite enough of a comeback for Lisa, but definitely a good effort towards the end. And it will be a game within 30 points, and both players made a lot of cool plays this set. And it will be really cool to see if Jason continues to go mostly scoring and not a lot of bingoing, and Lisa going mostly bingoing and not a lot of other kind of scoring, or if they kind of adjust based on the letters they get in the next round.